everybody! I'm Brandy Ackerley, and as you know, I'm not just a gamer or a VTuber, I'm also an author. What you may not also know is that I do some developmental editing on Fiverr. So, why am I mentioning this today? Well, when I was running a weekly blog rather than a YouTube channel, one of the things I'd often talk about were tips and tricks to make your own writing even better. Today, I want to do a little bit of that and discuss setting with you. A lot of people tend to leave setting to the very last, assuming that the setting itself will be largely ignored. Why? Well, because as a reader, unless you're doing it wrong, or the story is all about the setting instead of the story or the characters, the setting ends up being nearly invisible to us. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that you can ignore it, because when it's wrong, it can destroy your story very quickly. Now think of stories where they took place in a small town, but nobody knows each other or talks to each other. Or maybe a story where all the action takes place on horseback, but it's clear that the author is treating the horse like a car that goes forever and doesn't stop. Books that take place in large cities like New York, but somehow everything ends up within 10 minutes walking distance of the main character's home. That sort of thing happens because the writer hasn't fully considered their settings. Now, the best way I've found to think of it is to consider your setting a character all its own. Look at any setting. It has its good parts, its dark underbellies, its secrets, and its heroisms. When your readers can't recognize the setting correctly, it takes them out of the story, destroys some of the immersion, and may even kick your readers out completely. So, how can you fix this? Well, I mentioned treating it as a character itself, and that is exactly what you should do. When we're missing your setting, we're missing a character as important as any main character, or even a major villain. If they're a cardboard cutout, your readers will feel it. Similarly, if you place your characters in the wrong place, they also will. You can make an android in a Western work, but it's going to be tough if every other character is a gunslinger, and no one else even has a working car. On the other hand, think back to the first Matrix movie, of the first fight when Trinity was fighting the agents. Now it looked like the real world, but the laws that applied clearly weren't the same as ours. To me, that fight, while looking awesome, and doing so much for the film, left me feeling completely lost. The setting wasn't doing its job holding up its end of the bargain. It was the moment when Neo finally found himself in the real that the setting really started coming together. We knew why Trinity could do what she could do, why the agents could. It was because it was a simulation, and the contrast between the simulation and the real really drove home why Neo had to step up and accept his fate. It worked because what we thought were holes in the setting weren't holes, but just a different material, sturdier than we'd thought. As a final note, remember that in any form of storytelling media, whether it's a video game or a novel, or even a comic book, there is a trio holding your stories up. Actually, there are more, but these are the major three. Story, character, and setting. Like I mentioned, if one of these isn't holding its own, the triangle falls apart, leaving the rest to flounder. Now this doesn't mean that story or character can't take more weight, of course. Again, thinking of it like a triangle is a good idea. All of the sides don't need to be even, but if you're missing a side, or the one side is incomplete, then you're going to need the other walls working double time just to keep it stable. And that's going to be it for today. I can't wait to see you back next week. And don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the comments below. I'll see you next week. Bye!